main reason why I started doing it is because I loved performing and I loved the idea of it. But then once I got into it, I realized that there's so much more than just performing. It's the way you look, it's the way that you carry yourself, it's the makeup, it's the hair, it's all of it. And I think for me, the biggest challenge was how do I polish all of that? Like, where do I buy clothes? Where do I buy shoes? You know what I mean? I had no idea about like wigs. I would buy a wig from like my local hair store and in hopes that it looked presentable. You know, it's just it was I would say stuff like that.
I want everybody to realize that you cannot make drag a full time career until you have been working for years. And I'm talking close enough to a decade. I am 2 years into the biz, going on three. My aesthetic comes from the old school way of drag, but I'm also inspired by the mistresses of the night, like Elvira, Vampira, Morticia Adams, Lily Monster, those ladies, plus the witches of the night. Just more like an old school pageantry tang to it. And that's how you get Vampy Von Thickums galore. And that tang spoke to people because I was doing something so unique that a lot of people were not doing. Everybody was so focused on being the human hair girly from RuPaul's Drag Race, having the style, the glitz, the body. I was more focused on the artistic, creative background with just a little tang of pageantry. And also, I have a dance background. So I was twirling, cartwheeling, splitting, and dipping and flipping on the ceiling and disappearing at the bathroom and coming back to do another number. And I always give thanks to like my working ability, basically, and how I like to work, how I like to produce work, how I like to just showcase artistry. Because also remember, drag is art and art is subjective. So I will always just think of more creative ways to take things above and beyond. Remember, drag is always big, whether if it's visually, performance, or anything like that.
Drag Story Hour started in 2015 in San Francisco, and it was kind of the brainchild of queer author Michelle T. I think of it as like an idea that was just so intuitive in the sense that it really saw the affinities between children and their kind of orientation and just the cultural allowance for them to play and be creative and ask questions, and that's what drag queens and drag performers are also doing, is imagining worlds, creating characters, having the audacity to live in our boldest selves. I guess I could say that for me personally, I'd had a couple experiences myself getting to do drag with or for children, and that always just felt really exciting and just a little bit subversive, which is a little tricky to say right now because we've been under so much attack and there's so much rhetoric around what people claim are dangers to children for being exposed to drag. I think that just signals that, we're pushing buttons just a little bit and we're creating spaces for kids to express themselves, to stand up for what they believe in. I do also think that drag isn't just about gender. That's obviously an important part of it, but it also is about so many other things. Like it literally is about play. It is about creativity. It is about imagination. It's about the physicality and the materiality of drag, of all the textures and materials and colors and all these different things that we use to construct these looks and to construct our personas, that I think that the people who are really focusing on gender are kind of missing the point.
The reality of it is that you make it what you want it to be because it gets very exhausting and it gets very repetitive at times. And there's gonna be times where you don't want to get into it and go to a show, and there'll be times where you go to a show and there's 4 people in the audience. But it's like, are you doing it because there's 4 people in the audience, or are you doing it because you want to perform, you know?